Clause 8 is the largest clause in the standard. This is where the organization does the work, designs, produces, delivers, and controls the products and services that reach the customer. Subclause 8.1 sets the stage, operational planning and control. The organization must plan, implement, and control the processes needed to meet requirements. This means setting criteria for those processes, implementing controls, and keeping documented information to demonstrate that processes were carried out as planned. Subclause 8.2 focuses on the requirements for products and services. This begins with customer communication, establishing clear channels for providing information about products and services, handling inquiries, obtaining customer feedback, and managing customer property. The organization must then determine the requirements related to its products and services. Not just what the customer explicitly asks for, but also requirements the customer may not have stated that are necessary for the intended use, applicable statutory and regulatory requirements, and any requirements the organization considers necessary. Once determined, these requirements must be reviewed before the organization commits to supplying. Can you actually deliver what the customer needs? The review confirms that you can. Subclause 8.3 covers design and development. If the organization designs its own products or services, this clause applies in full. It requires a planned design and development process with defined stages, reviews, verification, and validation activities. Design inputs must be complete and unambiguous. Functional requirements, performance requirements, regulatory requirements, lessons learned from previous designs. Design outputs must meet input requirements and be adequate for subsequent processes like production and service delivery. And design changes must be identified, reviewed, and controlled. Subclause 8.4 addresses externally provided processes, products, and services. In plain language, supplier management. The organization must ensure that externally provided products and services conform to requirements. This means establishing criteria for evaluating, selecting, monitoring, and re-evaluating external providers. It means defining the controls to apply. And it means communicating requirements clearly to providers. What you need, how you will verify it, and what activities you intend to perform at their premises. Subclause 8.5 is production and service provision. The organization must carry out production and service delivery under controlled conditions. These include the availability of documented information that defines product characteristics and activities to be performed, the availability of monitoring and measuring resources, implementation of monitoring and measurement activities, the use of suitable infrastructure and environment, the appointment of competent personnel, and the validation and revalidation of processes where the resulting output cannot be verified by subsequent monitoring or measurement. This subclause also covers identification and traceability, the ability to track a product or service through its life cycle. Customer property. Any property belonging to the customer that is under the organization's control must be identified, protected, and safeguarded. Preservation. Protecting outputs during production and delivery. Post-delivery activities. Warranty, maintenance, recycling, disposal. And control of changes. Any changes to production or service provision must be reviewed and controlled. Subclause 8.6 is release. Products and services must not be released to the customer until planned arrangements have been satisfactorily completed, unless an authorized person or the customer approves otherwise. Evidence of conformity must be retained. Subclause 8.7 is control of non-conforming outputs. When a product or service does not conform to requirements, the organization must ensure it is identified and controlled to prevent unintended use or delivery. The organization must take appropriate action: correction, segregation, return, suspension, informing the customer. And it must retain documented information describing the nonconformity, actions taken, concessions obtained, and the authority deciding the action. Let us trace the full arc. A customer places an order. Requirements are determined and reviewed. The product is designed with controlled inputs and verified outputs. Components are sourced from evaluated suppliers. Production runs under controlled conditions with full traceability. The finished product is inspected and released only after verification. And if something goes wrong, it is caught, contained, and corrected before it reaches the customer. That is Clause 8, the engine room of the QMS. Now, how do we know if the engine is running well?